Someone says something. It's small. A tone, a look, a comment. But suddenly, something inside you ignites. Have you ever felt that? Your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, your thoughts start to spiral. You tell yourself, don't react. But it's too late. You already are. And by the time you catch it, you've either said something you regret or you've shut down completely. Maybe you've been replaying it in your mind for hours, long after the moment has passed. Why does this happen? Why can't you just let things go? Why does someone else's energy hijack yours? Why do their words still control your emotions, even when you know they shouldn't? Carl Jung once gave a brutal answer. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But here's the thing. Most people don't want understanding. They want control. They want peace. They want to be unbothered, immune to judgment, rejection, or attack. So what do? We chase self-help hacks. Breathe in, breathe out. Detach. Ignore, block, meditate. Fake calm until it crumbles under pressure. But here's the truth. None of it lasts, because you're not triggered by them. You're triggered by something within. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I get angry so easily? Why do certain people just ruin my whole day? If those questions hit home, like this video, because this isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about becoming free. And if you've ever wished for a peace so deep that no one else's chaos could shake it, subscribe now. Because this journey, it's not about them, it's about you. Jung believed that every person we meet reflects something buried inside us. And anger is a reaction to exposure. Someone touched a nerve, not because they're powerful, but because they touched something you've been avoiding, something in your shadow. You don't get angry when someone insults a part of you that you've accepted. You get angry when they hit something fragile, unconscious, unclaimed, unloved. Maybe they made you feel small, not because you are, but because a part of you still believes it. Maybe they ignored you, and suddenly that old wound of being unseen, maybe since childhood, flares up like fire. That's not their fault. That's a message. Anger isn't a problem. It's a signal. It's not about suppression. It's about translation. Ask yourself, what part of me did this moment wake up? Why did I need them to see me? Why did I feel the urge to defend? Because when you dig underneath the reaction, you'll find a story. And most of the time that story isn't even about the person in front of you. Jung believed we're all haunted by emotional complexes, patterns from our past. So every time you're triggered, you're not reacting to now, you're reacting to then, to the parent who didn't listen, to the friend who betrayed you, to the moment you learned silence was safer than truth. And so now, you defend, you shut down, you burn bridges, all to protect the part of you that never felt safe. But here's the truth that stings. Most people don't actually want peace. They want control over the outside world. So they never have to feel the chaos inside. But control isn't peace. Control is anxiety with better PR. Real peace, as Jung knew, doesn't come from avoiding difficult people. It comes from confronting the part of you that reacts to them. And when you finally understand that anger doesn't own you anymore, it stops being a prison. It becomes information. It becomes your invitation. So the next time someone gets under your skin, ask yourself, what did they awaken inside me? Where have I felt this before? What story am I telling myself right now? Because here's the truth. No one has the power to make you angry. They only have the power to reveal where your healing lives. You think it's them. Their tone, their timing, the way they talk to you like you don't matter, the way they always interrupt, the way they make everything a competition. But Jung would stop you right there. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. You're not just being bothered, you're being mirrored. And the reason some people drive you crazy isn't because they're toxic. It's because they reflect something in you that you haven't fully owned. Maybe you can't stand arrogance because you were punished for confidence. Maybe you're irritated by people who talk too much because you were never allowed to speak freely. Maybe people who seem emotionally detached trigger you because you're afraid of your own emotional dependence. The truth is brutal. You're not reacting to them. You're reacting to the part of you that you see in them, the part you've disowned. That's what Jung meant by the shadow. It's the version of you you were told was too much, too loud, too weak, too sensitive. too selfish, too needy. So you buried it, pretended it didn't exist, built a version of yourself that did the opposite. Quiet, logical, helpful, accommodating. But the shadow doesn't die, it hides. And when you meet someone who lives out what you've buried, rage rises. Call to action. So if this message resonated with you, if it cracked something open inside, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel, because we're not here to escape ourselves. We're here to meet ourselves. And that's where the real healing begins. You worked hard on emotional intelligence. You've trained yourself to stay calm, to listen, to breathe, to be mature, grounded, unshakable. And then, someone walks in, entitled, loud, dramatic, completely out of control, and suddenly, instant anger. But here's the twist. It's not them you hate, it's what they awaken in you. Maybe it's the memory of when you were out of control. Maybe it's the time you were punished for being too emotional, or when you were made to feel embarrassed, just for taking up space. What if I told you, anger is unprocessed memory, and the people who trigger you the most, they're just walking flashbacks. You think you're angry at this person, but really, you're angry at a younger version of yourself, the one who was never allowed to exist fully. But someone can ignore you, but you no longer confuse attention with worth. Someone can reject you, but you've stopped outsourcing your value to other people's approval. This is integration. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, but unshakable. And if you've made it this far, then this message is for you. You don't need to become someone else to find peace. You need to come home to the parts of yourself you've been taught to hide. Because real strength isn't pretending you're unbothered. It's being so deeply connected to yourself that no one else can define you. So ask yourself, what part of me have I been avoiding? What emotions have I labeled as bad, weak, or too much? What have I been running from that's still running my life? Because here's the truth. You don't have to keep defending yourself from the world. You just have to stop fighting yourself. Anger isn't the enemy. It's the doorway. And if this resonated with you, even for a moment, like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who's still trying to find peace through perfection. Because the journey isn't about becoming untouchable. It's about becoming whole. And wholeness starts with one decision: to stop abandoning yourself every time the world doesn't applaud you. Carl Jung said, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries." So meet your contradictions, love your contradictions, and above all, become the person you no longer need protection from. Someone can leave, but you don't collapse, because you never left yourself. Most people think they want emotional control. What they really want is to never feel again. They want to shut it down, numb it out, be above it all. But that's not power. That's fear, wearing a mask. Real emotional power, it's when you can feel everything without becoming any of it. You can feel anger and still respond with clarity. You can feel triggered and stay grounded. You can feel misunderstood and no longer need to be explained. That's when you become untouchable. Not because you're invincible, but because you're real. And reality doesn't flinch. So, how do you get there? You stop asking, why are they like that? And you start asking, why does this still move me? Because every trigger is a teacher. Every reaction is a map. Every moment of anger is a door. And on the other side is a part of you, waiting to be seen. People will always be people. Some kind, some cruel, some healing, some toxic. But once you've met your shadow, no one else gets to use it against you. You own your story. You own your reactions. You own your boundaries. And when you do, you stop defending. You stop chasing. You stop over-explaining. You become still, like a mountain, unbothered by the wind. There's a moment when the world tries to provoke you, and you don't move. Not because you're passive. Not because you're finally free. That's the moment Jung was pointing toward. The moment you've moved beyond emotional survival and stepped into psychological sovereignty. Let's be clear. This isn't about indifference. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming centered, so rooted in who you are that no one else can rewrite you with their noise. That's the power you've been chasing. And it doesn't come from avoiding your triggers. It comes from disarming them. You're no longer angry, because you don't outsource your identity anymore. They ignore you. You stay grounded. They mock you. You don't shrink. They forget you. You remember yourself. They misunderstand you, and you stop needing to explain what's already whole. You don't react, because you don't require anything from them. Carl Jung said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And when you choose to become whole, no one gets to define you again. Not by praise, not by insult, not by silence. And here's where it gets real. The very people who once triggered you, they'll feel different, not because they've changed, but because you have. That ex who made you feel invisible, now they're just a person. That friend who always talked over you, you don't feel silenced, because you no longer need permission to speak. That coworker who undermined you, they lose their sting, because their opinion no longer anchors your self-respect. You used to live in response. Now you live in relationship with yourself. And once you do that, you're no longer reactive. You're responsible, responsive, rooted. You're no longer trying to protect your image, because you've made peace with your reality. Carl Jung didn't promise happiness. He promised wholeness. And wholeness means your anger isn't a problem. It's a pointer. Your discomfort isn't failure. It's feedback. Your triggers, they're not enemies, they're messengers. And once you really listen, they stop yelling. Yes, people will still judge you, project on you, misunderstand you, but it won't stick, because you're no longer shaped by their version of you. You've built something stronger, a self that doesn't need to be managed, a self that doesn't need to be validated, a self that no longer takes things personally, because nothing personal can reach someone who knows who they are. That is final freedom. Not silence, but stillness. Not ignorance, but awareness. Not dominance, but integration. You can walk into any room, see any face, hear any tone, and remain untouched. Not because you've built walls, but because you no longer have leaks. Your boundaries are sacred. Your energy is yours again. And your peace is not a performance. It's the truth. So here's the question. What if the people who hurt you were never the enemy? What if the words that stung, the tones that pierced, the judgments that burned, were never about who you are, but about who you forgot to be? Carl Jung didn't just study the mind. He studied the soul's quiet unraveling, the slow collapse of identity when we base our worth on outside reflection. And he found something terrifying and beautiful. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You thought the anger came from them, but it wasn't them. It was your unconscious, pulling you back into the wound again and again, until you finally looked at it, until you finally owned it. That's the paradox. You stop being triggered, not when people get kinder, but when you stop borrowing your identity from their behavior. The moment you say, "I am not your perception of me. I am not your approval or rejection. I am not your silence or your praise," that's the moment you stop flinching, stop shrinking, stop explaining. That's the moment you come home. Because every time someone triggered you, they weren't showing you your limits. They were showing you your gaps. The places still fragile, still surviving, still shaped by stories that were never yours. You thought strength meant not reacting. That if you were just calm enough, quiet enough, still enough, no one could get to you. But that's not peace. That's fear, with good posture. Real peace, it's when someone lashes out, and you stay rooted. Not because you're numb, but because you see through it. You see their pain. You see your old wound. And you don't get pulled into either. That's the final realization. You're not here to defend yourself from the world. You're here to meet yourself through the world. Every argument, every trigger, every silence, every person who made you question your worth, they weren't here to break you. They were here to bring you back. And now, you don't need closure. You don't need revenge. You don't need to be proven right. Because you've already chosen yourself. And once you do that, nothing else sticks. You move through life with a different presence. Not cold, not guarded, just clear. You can smile at those who once hurt you. Not because it didn't matter, but because you made peace with what it awoke in you. You stop fearing rejection, because you no longer reject yourself. You stop chasing validation, Because your worth is no longer outsourced. You stop overthinking every interaction. Because your center is no longer up for negotiation. This is what Jung meant by individuation. Becoming who you truly are once you stop trying to become what the world rewards. And when you get there, you don't get angry. You get still. You don't get reactive. You get present. You don't carry grudges. You carry clarity. So if you're still watching, if this hit something buried inside you, know this. The fact that you've been triggered means you're alive. It means you're ready. You're not weak for feeling. You're powerful for facing it. Because most people, they'll spend their lives blaming others for the mirror, and die never seeing who they really were. But you're here. And that means, you're changing. So now ask yourself, what kind of person do I become when nothing outside of me controls who I am anymore? What happens when you stop hiding behind your calm and build your peace from truth instead? If this video helped you find that question, like it, so someone else sees it when they need it most. And if you're ready to stop being controlled by noise, subscribe. Because here we don't numb, we don't run, we face the shadow, and we integrate it, one truth at a time. And if this hit you where it hurts, comment below. I'm not reactive, I'm rooted. Let them see it, let you feel it. Because now, no one gets to decide your power but you.